Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it started with our brothers and sisters across the pond where they were having their electricity shut off, and now it's migrated here to the United States of America. Not saying that it hasn't happened in the past, but we are going to have to get used to this because it will continue to happen. Utilities are cutting off power to millions of Americans amid rising energy costs. I see a day, and this is my opinion, I see a day where we will have those meters in front of houses where people have to prepay for their electricity or their gas and things like that. Why? Because it takes away that human contact. And here in these United States of America, supposedly the wealthiest country in the world, it's happening. A growing number of Americans are having their power shut off as rising costs of living forces consumers to choose between keeping the lights on, paying for food, rent, or transportation. And listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. In states that do track this, utility cutoffs increased by 30% from 2021 to 2022, while gas cutoffs increased to 76%. Thank you, Genesis Gold Group, for sponsoring this video. Ladies and gentlemen, I've received several emails in the past asking me what I would do if I had a 401k or an IRA that I wanted to protect against the inflationary forces that we've experienced and are experiencing now. I'm not a financial advisor, but the folks at Genesis Gold Group specialize in helping those who want to diversify their excess wealth by converting their fiat currency retirement plans into a plan that is backed by real money. So if you're in a position where you are wondering what you can do in order to diversify or insulate your wealth against what I like to call the inferno of inflation, give Genesis Gold Group a call and they can provide you with the information that you need in order to make an educated decision. And like I said before, it is the policymakers that are at fault for what is happening. And if you live in Minnesota, you can see blackouts coming in your near future. It's not that near, still years away before this occurs, according to this bill that was passed in Minnesota. However, you have time. You've been warned. You have time to find greener pastures and go somewhere else. Minnesota lawmakers passed legislation banning the use of coal, oil, and gas for state's electricity grid. Where are they going to get their electricity from, ladies and gentlemen? That's the question that constituents of those lawmakers in Minnesota ought to be asking. Where are we going to get our electricity from if you're banning all of this? And how are you going to make it work? From the Market Insider, the Big R and the Big I plan a gold-backed stablecoin. It's coming, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to show you more information on this here as we go along. While Brazil and Argentina seek a shared currency, and they say here are 5 rising threats to the dollar's dominance of global trade. By now, if you've been, with me on the Alaska Prepper channel here for a while, you all understand that the dollar is losing its dominance and that eventually the dollar will lose its dominance, whereas nations are going to start trading bilaterally or shifting away from the dollar as a form of trade. Why is that? There's many reasons for that, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't know, I'll give you one reason. One reason is that countries are starting to get fed up with the United States having so much power over their policies just because we hold the world reserve currency. They're starting to get fed up. They're feeling like they're being bullied, and they have been bullied for a very long time. They have been mistreated. We have the power here in the United States, or the government has the power to dictate what their inflation is going to be in their nations just by how much we print or how much we take back or tighten. That's what's happening right now. So depending on the strength or the weakness of a dollar really depends a lot on the inflation that's going on in other nations, because they may not be specifically pegged to the dollar, but since they have to trade in dollars, for example, since some nations may have to buy oil in dollars, it really affects what their inflation is in their country, how much they have to pay for things in their country. So they're getting tired of that. They're getting tired of the U.S. being able to kick them off the SWIFT system, which is the program that is used, or the software that is used for nations to be able to interact and purchase things internationally, interact with each other internationally. They're getting tired of all of that, and they are going to make a change. And there's nothing that we're going to be able to do about it. Because if it's one nation, like Iraq, that says, hey, we're going to go ahead and start selling our oil in euros, back, I believe it was in 2001 or something like that, 2002, then look at what happened to that nation. If it's a nation like Libya who says, hey, we're going to go ahead and start buying oil and interacting monetarily in gold. We're going to make a gold lira. Look at what happened to that nation, the country of Libya. So they're tired of it. Here it says the dollar's supremacy in global trade faces fresh challenges as several countries float plans to use local currencies in commerce. And what are those 5 things? We've all heard about these. Brazil and Argentina plan on a common currency, meaning that they'll do bilateral trading with that currency. The big R and the big I, a gold-backed stablecoin. They're working on a stablecoin. What for? To bypass the dollar. And we're not talking about small countries. You know, Russia may not have as many people as we do. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there are like 60 or 70 million people in the big R, right, in Russia. And here, obviously, there's a lot more. But we're talking about China, 1.4, 1.5 billion. We're talking about India, 1.4, 1.5 billion. That right there is almost half of the people in the world. So if about half of the people are in the world are, you know, interacting by bypassing the US dollar, what do you think is going to happen to the value of the dollar going forward? UAE and India look at using rupees in non-oil trades. China pushes for the yuan to replace the dollar in oil trades. And the last one, Russia, China propose a new reserve currency, and countries are joining that side. There is a very long list of countries that are in line to try to get in with the BRICS nations. And with them, they're going to take their currencies, join them, and they're going to leave the US dollar behind. Sometimes I probably sound like I want this to happen. In a way I do, and in a way I don't. And the reason that I don't is because many people are going to suffer. Everyone is going to suffer. Not just people in the United States, but many countries are going to suffer when this finally happens. And in a way I do. Why? Because I know, ladies and gentlemen, for a fact that the only way that we can have a just system in the United States and in many other nations, but I'm concerned more about the United States because this is my country. This is where I live. My children live. If we don't end this system, then we can't start a new system, and hopefully the next system will be one that's just, one that has morals, one where the government uses real money, sound money, where we the people can keep the government in check. However, with fiat currency, that's never going to happen. So in a way I do, in a way I don't. In a way I say, go ahead and rip off that Band-Aid and let's just get it over with, because it's going to happen eventually. Well, in a way I don't feel that it should be ripped off, you know, quickly, because it gives us more time to prepare for the inevitable. And if we keep going down the same road that we've been going, ladies and gentlemen, which it doesn't look like we're going to change, you know, routes, we're going to end up just like Lebanon, just like Venezuela. Here in Lebanon, their central bank just devalued the lira by 90%. By fiat. They just said, hey, we're going to go ahead and devalue the lira by 90%. So that means that loaf of bread that you bought yesterday for 100 liras, let's say, now is going to cost 200 or 180, 190, whatever it may be, ladies and gentlemen. Right? You do the math. But they just did that by fiat. Is that real money? When a central bank can just take what you earned, what you put your sweat, your labor, your time into, that money that you earn, when they can just buy fiat, say, or dictate, hey, what you earned yesterday, it's now worth 90% less. Meaning that the labor, the time that you put into that money that you made yesterday, now today we decided that it's worth 90% less. So henceforward, you're going to have to work twice as hard in order to get the same stuff. Same thing we're seeing here in the United States. It's just not overnight. If you saw the video that I put out, I think it was yesterday. Where in the year 2000, the median income for a family was $31,600. Today, in the year 2023, the median income in the United States is $35,000, $4,000 more. However, in order for us to live the same standard of living on $31,000, right, that we lived back in 2000, it would take $54,000 today. Same thing with them. It's just with them, they're so far gone, they don't have the reserve currency that they can just do it overnight. Well, the same thing is happening here, just in slow motion. Ask yourself if your pay has been able to keep up with inflation over the last 20 years or 23 years. For most people in America, especially those that are having their gas shut off, that are having their electricity shut off, because they have to decide whether to feed their children or keep the lights on, for them, I can tell you right now, the answer is no. Their pay has not kept up with inflation. And inflation only has one way to go. Don't let the media fool you. Inflation only has one way to go, ladies and gentlemen, and that is up. Let me show you something real quick that I came up with yesterday, and I forgot to include it in the video. But take a look at this right here. This is a chart of the stock market. This is actually the Dow Jones, right? All the way back from 1975, I believe it is. And then take a look at this. I'm going to put these charts side by side. This is a chart of the value of the dollar, on how it's been going down. And take a look at what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to inverse the value of the dollar chart so that it looks like the value of the stock market. And look at how much they correlate. That is why I often say that the stock market is fake. Because the stock market depends on easy money, on cheap money. That is why every time that you see that interest rates are dropped, the stock market skyrockets. Because these big corporations can borrow really cheaply and then invest in their own stocks, making the price of the stock go up. And then what do? They give themselves huge bonuses at your expense. At your expense, ladies and gentlemen, because most Americans are not in the stock market. Most Americans are consumers. They go to work and they consume. Most Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So if you take a look at this chart as to how high the stock market has gone, and then you compare the value of the dollar, and then you inverse it, you can see exactly where all of those printed dollars have been going to for all of these years. In Lebanon, cash is now king, where a 3-year economic meltdown has led the country's once lauded financial sector to atrophy and turned the country into a Venezuelan-esque hyperinflationary hell. I hope to God that that never happens here. I hope that we can figure out a way out of this mess. But I just don't have the confidence in our so-called leaders to get us out of the mess that they themselves have gotten us into, and enriched themselves in the process. You can protect yourself with real money. It's been around for millennia, and governments hate it. But how is it that governments hate it when central banks last year purchased more gold than any year for the last 55, 60 years? They hate it, ladies and gentlemen, because they know that real money gives power to the people. Gold demand hit 11-year high in 2022. Why is that? Because more people are buying gold to protect themselves. More hedge funds, or what do they call them here? ESGs? ETFs. More ETFs. They're buying gold to protect themselves. People are buying more jewelry made out of gold. I bet you that's probably in countries like India and China, where they have a culture that they are told by their governments, actually, yeah, you should be buying gold. That's good. But not here in the United States. 22 was strongest year for gold demand in over a decade, says report. Annual gold demand jumped 18% to 4,741 tons, almost on par with 2011. It doesn't matter that it's almost on par with 2011, but the number here that I'm looking at is 4,741, ladies and gentlemen. Gold mine production up modestly in 2022. Well, that's great. because we had a record year of buying gold, and we had a record year, or gold mines were able to mine more gold. But remember 4,700 tons that was consumed last year? Full year mine production for 2022 came to 3,600 tons. That's 1,100 tons less. We were able to mine 1,100 tons less gold than what we needed. That's roughly 25% or so. Do you think that maybe some people that are sitting in their ivory towers know the truth about gold? In my opinion, eventually, I'm not saying this is going to happen next year or the year after. Eventually, we will be on a gold-backed system, because that's how it always works out. You start with gold. You start with real money. All right? When I say gold, I mean gold and silver. You start with real money, and then they change that to currency. Now, currency is this. Currency is a bill or a note that says, hey, you can go to a bank and trade this in for its equivalent value in gold, because this is backed by gold or silver. So you can take this into a bank and trade it in. It's just easier to carry this, right? It is. It's easier to carry this around. So it'll go back to a gold currency. We will go ahead and eventually turn into currency. This is currency, something that's backed by something that has value. Then we will switch over again to fiat currency. And then we will go through all of the turmoil, or the generations that come ahead of us will go through all of the turmoil that we've been going through. Wars, governments getting too big, promising everyone everything on everyone else's backs that pay, taxes. And then we'll end up as humanity right here where we are today, because humans just don't like to learn lessons. Not over time, we don't. And to finish it off, I just wanted to show you what a hypocrite this person must be. I don't even know who he is, and I could be 100% wrong in my assumption. You remember what they say when you assume something? So I might be making an ass out of myself right now. Well, I usually do anyways. But here it says, former UK defense minister says NATO may need to send ground forces to the big EU. Isn't it easy for these politicians, or even ex-politicians, to sit on their ivory towers and say, yes, we need to go to war. We need to send our children over here. No, not our children, your children. We need to send your children over here to defend democracy, even though there's no such thing here in the country that we live in. I just want you to know that when they do take us to war, that it is not them that are going to be suffering. Show me one leader in recent history, let's say in the last 50 years or so, that has actually stepped foot on the battlefield with the men that he told they have to go to war behind him, saying, lead the way. You're not going to find one. But you will see them on TV in their nice $5,000 suits with their security detail around them, saying, we have to do this. Why? Because they do have to do it, ladies and gentlemen. For them. They have to do it for them. It's all about preserving their power. And I hope that you understand that. So the next time that you hear one of these politicians or pundits say that we have to go to war, I hope you understand that they're not going to war for you. They're not going to war for freedom. They're not going to war for democracy. They are going to war to preserve their power over you, over we the people. Having said that, I hope that you have a great day. Again, thank you, Genesis Gold Group, for sponsoring this video. We will see you on Friday. All right, Friday's live stream, a couple days from now, 2 p.m. Alaska time, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Other than that, have a great day. God bless every one of you. God bless America. I'm Alaska Prepper. I am out.